Happy Monday, happy Victory Monday, and welcome to another episode of Hornets Daily, your one-stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. As always, we're presented by the good people over at Fan Arc, and I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you already know you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, watching along with us. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. You know already we enjoy watching you guys interact, hearing some of your thoughts on what's going on the program, and continuing to interact a little bit with you down in the chat as we continue to grow and build this Hornets Daily family here on the program. As I mentioned, it's a Victory Monday. The Panthers are back to 500. The Hornets got their first preseason win on Saturday night. The Queen City is buzzing, and we've got a full docket for you today. As I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about that Game 3 win and how the Hornets were able to overcome Cooper Flagg and the Dallas Mavericks on Saturday. Colin Sexton is making a strong case for why he should be the opening night starter. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Moussa Diabate has been very impressive in two games so far in the preseason, a little light on the workload on Saturday night, but he did just fine when he was on the floor. We'll talk a little bit about Moussa's preseason so far, and then Ryan Kalkbrenner has been more than impressive in his time on the floor. He really shined on Saturday night. We'll break that down a little bit as well. Wrap the program up with that. As I mentioned, a full docket for today. You know we don't beat around the bush here. Like to dive head first on Hornets Daily, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. The Hornets got their first preseason win over the weekend, knocking off number 1 overall pick Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, and the rest of the Dallas Mavericks, and they did it by finally getting off to a fast start, something we've talked about several times on the program. We've heard Charles Lee talk about it all throughout training camp. The rest of the organization as well, the players on the roster, have all mentioned how it's been a point of emphasis in training camp to come out firing and come out hitting on all cylinders, come out in the first quarter and not have to climb that uphill battle, work from behind like we've mentioned several times here on the show. Something we know they were unable to do the first 2 preseason games, but on Saturday the Hornets finally came away with a first quarter lead. They finished up the first quarter with while it was just a 3-point lead, it was a lead nonetheless, and a 25-5 run in the first quarter helped them get that lead. So they've been on the receiving end of those runs in this preseason, as we know, but this time it was the Hornets taking it to the Dallas Mavericks in the first quarter of the game on Saturday. Saturday night was also the most exposure we've seen the air quotes for this starters get on the court as well. Brandon Miller played 23 minutes. LaMelo also played 23 minutes. Miles Bridges 27. Colin Sexton 21. Con Knipple 22. I threw Con in there even though he came off the bench. He's still up in the air to potentially be a starter and was one of the guys up over 22 minutes. The surprising thing, however, about this was the amount of work that Ryan Kalkbrenner got. I told you he had a fantastic performance. We'll get to that later on. But he got the start, and he played 25 minutes on the night. It was a heavy workload for Kalkbrenner. Charles Lee has been very impressed with him throughout training camp. We've heard him talk about that as well. And I know the preseason is for seeing your rookies in action, and that's kind of the point here. But Kalkbrenner got 13 more minutes than any other big on the roster. Diabate got 12 minutes, and Mason Plumlee played just 11 minutes on Saturday night. So it was a heavy workload, highly featured Ryan Kalkbrenner. Charles Lee really wanted to see what he's got out of the former big man out of Creighton, and it looks like he may be potentially setting himself up to be the Hornets' big man of the future. It's starting to seem like they may have, after all, found their big man going forwards. We'll discuss, once again, Kalkbrenner and his performance at the end of the show. I told you that earlier, and we'll mention it again as we continue to progress through today's episode. The team overall, however, that's where the big step forward was taken. In terms of shooting the ball, they were able to shoot the ball with a good percentage on Saturday night to the tune of 49% from the field, 41% from three. Still struggled from the free throw line, 60% overall as a team, but not a lot of trips to the free throw line. And guys like Colin Sexton, who we do see get there a lot, he went 6 for 6 from the charity stripe. So the guys that get there often, they did just fine. It is still a struggle point for Musa, but we kind of knew that. That's something we're prepared for. He's not the greatest free throw shooter. Can still progress as the season goes on. But that was the main point of struggle was the free throw line. Again, 41% from beyond the arc. The Hornets did not take as many threes on Saturday night, just 39 overall as a team, coming off the 51 they took in Game 2 against the Mavericks, or against the Thunder there. But now it's nice to see them hitting some of those shots, taking smarter, more open looks, and getting them to fall. A guy who did that a lot was Miles Bridges. It was nice to see him return to his normal form, 20 points and 11 rebounds in a double-double for Miles Bridges. Technically, he got there first on the stat sheet, so he becomes the first Hornet to reach a double-double in the preseason. Kalkbrenner had 14 and 10, but his 10th rebound came after Miles' 11th, so he's technically the second Hornet, just breaking it down time-wise like that. Bridges shot the ball on a decent clip on Saturday night, going 7 of 18 from the field, but he did knock down 4 of 8 attempts from beyond the arc. So it was nice to see him get hit back into a little bit of a rhythm from beyond the three-point line. 50% from out there, much better than his average last year. Nice to see Miles getting back, comfortable being on the floor, getting back into his rhythm, hoping he can return to that 20-point per game form that he averaged last year. LaMelo also had 20 of his own and a game-high 6 assists to go along with it. He's looking quite good in his preseason performances so far. He, too, went 4 for 8 from beyond the arc, but was a bit better from the floor overall, going 8 of 13, shooting just over 61.5%. So if you want to round that up to 62, I'm okay with that as well. So a nice shooting night from LaMelo as well. This game put on display, though, more importantly than his shooting performance. We know he can shoot the ball. We know he can score. That's not a problem. It put on display what LaMelo can and has to be this year for the Charlotte Hornets in order if they want to succeed. He's got to be the leader, the elite passer, the whole package at point guard, and he was that, and then some on Saturday night. Once again, a game-high 6 assists. Now, that's not a take-your-breath-away type of number, but some of the passes that he put on display, if you were watching, if you were looking at them, were some of those take-your-breath-away type of passes. Some of those passes you look at and go, oh, this guy's just different when it comes to his vision and his ability to see the court. That was on full display on Saturday night. It was nice to see LaMelo get to that part of his game. Again, he's starting to trust those guys around him. He knows he's got the most talent around him that he's had probably in his whole career, and he's starting to trust some of those shooters that are around him. We've preached all summer about his offensive efficiency and how that's going to have to pick up, how his shooting is going to have to be better. Again, 62% from the field is a pretty good night if you ask me. 4 of 8 from 3 is more than satisfactory. 6 assists to go along with it. That number will increase as the games become more serious and the regular season gets here. He gets more minutes. He's on the floor with his guys that he plays with traditionally more often. So the 6 assists will increase, and on Saturday he finished plus 27 on the night in in the 23 minutes that he played. So that to me is a great sign going forwards into the regular season for his offensive efficiency, and it shows you a little bit of where his mindset's at with his style of play coming into this year and this regular season. Again, he trusts the guys around him. He knows he's got the pieces. He knows he doesn't have to do everything by himself, but he still can if he's got to. We know that's in his bag as well, and if he's going to shoot this well from the floor all season long, the Hornets are going to be in a very good place going forward. It's just further proof that it's not just all the talk coming from the Hornets building this summer. They're actually putting evidence on the court that they are trying to change that culture. They are trying to make these changes to their style of play. They are trying to pick up the pace, something they did very well. Again, on Saturday night, they worked well offensively in transition. Got gashed a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, transition-wise, but it's still early. It's still the preseason. Charles Lee was tinkering with some lineups, and that could lead to that problem there. But on the offensive side, in terms of their transition, the Hornets looked good. and moving the ball. Did much better at, like Charles Lee has said, focusing on moving the ball forwards with the pass and not the dribble. The Hornets were able to do that pretty well on Saturday night. They're putting forth the action on the court to show that the culture is changing, and it's starting with their superstar, LaMelo Ball. He is changing his style of play. He's changing his mindset. He's trying to be a part of this culture change, a part of this new winning attitude that the Hornets are developing, and he's doing well with that so far through the preseason. Now, Charlotte's other star, Brandon Miller, he had a nice outing for himself on Saturday. Nothing crazy, nothing mind-blowing, but he did score 15 points, going 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 6 from beyond the arc. He added 5 assists, 2 rebounds, and 1 steal to go along with it. The good news here is that Brandon Miller's starting to look much more comfortable with his wrist in terms of the tape, in terms of figuring out his jump shot, with how that's going to work coming off of the injury. He's getting back into basketball shape, it would appear. I know he's been with the team working out, but he's now more comfortable being on the floor in terms of playing a basketball game. I mentioned this was a starter-heavy game, as Khan was the only player off the bench who had over 20 minutes. Brandon Miller, again, 23 minutes on the night. He looked good. Nice to see him getting some time. He's 100%, as we mentioned, but he is still getting used to playing with that wrist tape in the NBA, and he's starting to get more comfortable there with that as he looks to be getting back into his normal form as well. Again, a 15-point performance, 6 of 10 from the field for Brandon Miller. Excuse me. And I mentioned Khan was the only one there, the only bench player in this game to have over 20 minutes coming off the bench. He finished with 12 points on a better shooting night, 5 of 11 from the floor, but he did still struggle from 3, going just 1 of 5 from beyond the arc, and the turnover bug bit him a little bit. He had 5 turnovers on Saturday night. So that's just, again, these are just early in your career, first couple preseason game jitters that I think Khan is trying to get over. He still seems to be doing a little bit too much when he's on the floor, just trying to understand his role, where he's going to fit in and where he's going to be best needed. Again, 5 of 11, he's getting better overall from the floor, but he's still not quite getting the three-pointer to fall in, but that will change when you're a shooter like he is. You just got to keep shooting, and eventually they'll fall. The rhythm will come. Khan's going to be fine there. He made his only free throw attempt of the night. We know that that's not going to be an issue for him when he gets to driving, when he gets into the lane and starts drawing those fouls. We know he has a high success rate at the free throw line, so he will be just fine. He does seem to be struggling from beyond the arc, but again, I don't think that's going to be something to be concerned with. He looks good on the defensive end of the floor. We know his energy, his intensity are always high. His competitiveness is through the roof. He's going to be just fine, but again, that goes back to what I was saying about Colin Sexton, or what I will tell you about Colin Sexton here in a few minutes, as to why I think he is should be part of the starting lineup, especially going forwards into opening night. Speaking of the starting lineup, it consisted Saturday of LaMelo Ball, Colin Sexton, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Like I mentioned, that starting lineup was up 26-13 before the first substitution, so Charles Lee may have found something there. I know it's the first time those guys are playing together. It's still very early. But, again, maybe Charles Lee found something, and maybe it will be Ryan Kalkbrenner who's going to be the first big man out onto the floor with the starters on opening night. That still, again, remains to be seen. That and the 2 guard, we know the 5 and the 2 are the questions, or the starting positions that still have some questions surrounding them. We know the other 3 guys are written in Sharpie as long as they are healthy. But again, maybe after Kalkbrenner's performance, maybe after this starting lineup meshed so well together, we're able to come out so hot in the first quarter. Maybe Charles Lee has found something with Kalkbrenner at the center position, and that's who he's going to run out with. We'll still have to wait and see how this continues to unfold. Another preseason game coming up on Wednesday night. Trey Mann unfortunately went out in the first half with a right hip issue. I don't think it's going to be very serious, but it is something to keep an eye on. He was unable to play for the majority of the second half, really the majority of the game on Saturday night, and his presence was missed pretty heavily with the second unit. They struggled a little bit. The bench did get outscored 34-18 on Saturday night, and Trey Mann's presence not being there was part of that. We know he is a staple piece coming off the bench. He's got the ability to man that offense from the backup point guard position and keep things on track there, facilitate as well as do some high level scoring. So hopefully he'll be all right. We know, again, as I said, it's not supposed to be a serious issue in his right hip, but it is something to keep an eye on, something that kept him off the floor for the majority of the game on Saturday night. Now, a guy who was not off the floor for the majority of the game was Colin Sexton. As I mentioned, he started on Saturday, played 21 minutes, less than Con Knippel, who played 22 off the bench, but he did make his case even stronger on Saturday night to be the starting two guard on opening night. Like I've said all summer, I think he should be starting at that position. You've heard me say it. You know it's something I'm high on. It's not a knock against Con Knippel by any means. It's just that I think Colin Sexton is that much more prepared, that much more ready to be a starter on opening night and realistically the first month or so of the season. I think Con can get there. I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing by any means. But with what Colin Sexton brings to the table already, with the experience he has in his career, being a starter at both guard positions, realistically, I think he is just more prepared to be the starting two guard next to LaMelo, next to Brandon Miller, next to Miles Bridges, and whoever it is decides Charles Lee decides to run out at the five. I do think the Hornets would benefit themselves by running Colin Sexton out there. He didn't have an all-star performance on Saturday, but his energy and intensity are infectious. We've heard LaMelo say that. We've heard Charles Lee say that. It rubs off on everyone around him, and that kind of was evident with that hot start they got off to, with that 25-5 run, with that at one point 30-13 lead, and then going into the second quarter being ahead. That kind of trickle-down effect from a guy like Colin Sexton is noticeable, and I think that goes a long way, whether or not he's having the best performance numbers-wise on the court. Again, he kind of struggled from the field, was really one of the only Hornets to do so, 2 of 7 from the floor, but did score 12 points, finished plus 21 on the night, was able to go 6 of 6 from the free throw line. So that is, he can bring it something beneficial to the table from different aspects of the game, not just shooting the ball, and he's aware when he's struggling that he is struggling. He knows how to figure it out other ways. He knows how to get other guys involved. He had 3 assists as well, 4 rebounds. So I really kind of stuffed the stat sheet there for Colin Sexton in a night he was continuing to prove that he should be that starter again. No knock against Con, but I think Colin Sexton, he's due to his experience, due to his what he brings to the floor. We know he averages 18 points a game for his career. He did that again last year, so we know he can score. Also, I think that's part of the reason why it's going to benefit the Hornets to put him in at the starting at the two guard, because he has that experience. He's got that leadership, and that leadership can be very beneficial to guys like LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, who are young in their careers but still trying to adapt and fit into that veteran role themselves. We know LaMelo really needs to step into that veteran role, as he is one of the I just said he's young, but he's one of the older guys on the roster. He's one of the more experienced, one of the more seasoned, and one of the more tenured Hornets on this team. So he's going to need to develop into that leadership role and just being around, playing with, and getting some energy, getting some rub off there from Colin Sexton, and the way he plays is going to be important as well. Sexton's driving ability, success getting to the free throw line, as I mentioned, 6 for 6 on Saturday night, but it also opens things up for the rest of the guys on the floor. It allows for him to utilize his passing ability to kick out to jump shooters like Miles Bridges, like LaMelo Ball, like Brandon Miller, all guys who were able to knock down threes off of drives and kickouts on Saturday night. I also think, until proven otherwise, Colin Sexton provides a bigger threat to opposing defenses than Con Knippel. Now that too is going to change. Con's going to show his scoring ability. He's going to show the reason why he's got to have some attention when he's on the offensive end of the floor. But right now, I just don't think he's as intimidating to another defense, draws nearly as much attention as Colin Sexton will when he's on the floor. Teams know he can score the ball. They know that they have to pay a lot of attention to him on the offensive end of the floor, which again will continue to open up the spacing for the shooters and continue to help the other guys around on the floor. Once again, I'm not saying this is permanent. I'm not saying I believe that Colin Sexton should be written in Sharpie as the starting two for the Hornets. I think that Con Knippel is going to take that role at some point this season. I know that's the expectation. I know that's why he was drafted. But I'm just saying that come October the 22nd, in a couple weeks, Con, I don't think, will be the most ready, and it will benefit him to come off the bench as well as the Hornets to have Colin Sexton in the starting lineup for the early part of the season, where we've talked about, there are some winnable games, and the Hornets could have themselves a good early start come out of the gates, not just in one game but in several, in terms of the big picture of the season, getting off to a hot start as well. A guy who's going to be important to that is Moussa Diabate. You've heard me rave about the big man all summer. I've told you several times I think he's ready to take that next step. I've told you he's going to develop offensively. I think he's going to improve on that end of the floor. I think he's going to be able to adapt to the center position in the NBA. I know he's undersized, but we've talked about his athletic ability, his defensive ability, his length, and his rebounding ability, making him capable of overcoming the undersized the undersized matchups that he's going to have night in and night out at the center spot. And I've said several times he's going to be a fine starter for this team just because of his mindset, his work ethic, and his athletic ability are going to help him tremendously be able to develop into that starting center for the Hornets. And his preseason performances are in no way making me incorrect. I'm not upset about that, by the way. But he is doing very well. He's looking good. He's impressing. And in the 2 games against the Thunder is really where he's shown the brightest so far this preseason. He had 14 and 7 in the second game against the Thunder. In the first game, he went 7 points, 4 rebounds in just 13 minutes. So he was efficient and utilized his time well while he was on the floor in both of those games. Again, Saturday, as I've mentioned several times, was a night for Lee to see Ryan Kalkbrenner, as he spent the lion's share of the time on the floor, but Moussa looked more than good when he was playing as well. Again, there's no secret about his defensive ability, about his rebounding intensity, about the way he crashes the glass, about the way he really just enjoys rebounding the basketball on both ends of the floor. He's already last year proven himself to be one of the better offensive rebounders in the NBA. We know he can do that on the defensive side of the floor as well. It's going to be, as we know, the scoring aspect of his game that's got to take that next step forward, that's got to improve this season. And so far in the preseason, he's done a pretty good job of that. He's done a fine job of scoring when he's needed to. He's done a nice job of capitalizing on his attempts. He was 2 for 4 on Saturday, 3 for 5 in one of the games against the Thunder, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But he's done a nice job scoring efficiently as well. He is still struggling from the free throw line, but we knew that's something he was going to do. That part of his game is going to take maybe the most work, but it's also realistically the least important at the moment. He needs to figure out the other things at right now, and he's doing a good job with that. He's doing a fine job figuring those things out. So far in the preseason, fans should be able to take some comfort in Moussa's game and the way he has been playing, the way he's looked on the floor, knowing that it's not going to be as bad as everyone said it was going to be in the paint. Another reason for that has been Ryan Kalkbrenner and his impressive performances this preseason, especially on Saturday. Frankly, it's been quite unexpected how good Ryan Kalkbrenner has been. As I mentioned, he played 25 minutes on Saturday night, had a 14-point, 10-rebound double-double, added an assist and a block to go along with it. He finished off at plus 24 on the night with a perfect 7 of 7 from the field. He put on full display every reason why he was drafted, why the Hornets drafted him, and why he was taken in the second round. His rim protecting, his elite rebounding ability, and he's starting to show as well that he's no slouch on the offensive end of the floor. 7 of 7 is very good. If we can get 14 points out of him every night, that's going to be more than what they thought they were going to get. That's going to be more than what they could ask for, honestly, out of the center position. And Kalkbrenner has been one of the bright spots on this Hornets preseason team so far through all 3 games. The Brook Lopez comps that we heard, they're starting to make a little bit more sense. Actually, he's shooting the ball a little bit. He did score most of his points from right around the rim, but he does, we know, have that ability to step out and shoot those mid-range jump shots. He's got the three-pointer in his bag. Didn't take one on Saturday, but if he needs to, he can step all the way out there and stretch the floor. And as his game continues to develop, as he gets more comfortable with the NBA style of play, I'm sure that's something he'll do, is venture out to the perimeter and start to take and probably knock down some of those three-pointers as well. If Kalkbrenner continues to trend in this direction, it's going to be very, very hard for Moussa Diabate to get that starting center spot. It's going to be very hard for Charles Lee to not put Ryan Kalkbrenner on the floor, and it will seem like the Hornets may have found their center for the future, especially if he can continue to develop offensively and have scoring nights where he puts up 14, 16, and if it continues getting into the 20 and 10 type of range, if he can become one of those types of guys, the Hornets will absolutely have found their center for the future. It's been a lot of fun watching Kalkbrenner. We'll get to do that again on Wednesday night as the Hornets play the Grizzlies at the Greensboro Coliseum, a return to North Carolina for a preseason game, which we'll talk about a little bit on tomorrow's show, previewing that one. Got a few more things to talk about for the rest of the week as well. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, thanks for watching, joining along with us. If you haven't already, remember to smash that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are so far through the preseason on what you've seen from this Hornets roster, and we'll talk about it tomorrow on a brand new episode of Hornets.